Hi, welcome to my first intermediate B1 level lesson. Welcome, my name's Kate. I'm an English teacher from Britain. Today we're looking at a revision of question forms. And the way I want to do that today is to start by asking you some questions. We're going to have a quiz about sports and games. I want to find out what you know about sports and games. So, what you need is a pen and paper. And when you've got those things, I will ask you some questions and I would like you to jot down the answers. So let's get started. So, first of all, what do the letters NBA mean? What do the letters NBA mean? Next question. Which of these countries has never won the Football World Cup? Argentina, England, France, or Japan? Which of these countries has never won the Football World Cup? Argentina, England, France, or Japan? Next question. When were the Olympic Games in Sydney, Australia? When were the Olympic Games in Sydney, Australia? Okay, D. What kind of ball do they use in the game of rugby? What kind of ball do they use in the game of rugby? Okay, next question. How often do the Winter Olympics happen? How often do the Winter Olympics happen? Next question. Where does the sport of judo come from? Where does the sport of judo come from? Next question. How many spots are there on a dice? How many spots are there on a dice? H. Who starts in a game of chess, the black player or the white player? Who starts in a game of chess, the black player or the white player? Next question. Why are there 52 cards in a normal pack? Why are there 52 cards in a normal pack? J. How does a football referee signal the end of a game? How does a football referee signal the end of a game? K. How long does an ice hockey match last? How long does an ice hockey match last? And the last question. What colour is the shirt worn by the race leader in the Tour de France? What colour is the shirt worn by the race leader in the Tour de France? Okay, how did you get on? There were a lot of questions there using lots of different question forms. What I'm going to do now is read out the answers and we can see how you got on. Here we go. So, the letters NBA mean National Basketball Association, the body which controls basketball in the United States. B. Argentina have won the World Cup twice. England and France have won one each, but Japan has never won the World Cup. C. The modern Olympic Games took place in Sydney, Australia in the year 2000. D. A rugby ball is similar to the ball used in football, but there is one important difference, the shape. Football is round, but a rugby ball is oval, like an egg. E. The Winter Olympics happen every 4 years. F. The sport of judo is now popular all over the world, but it began about 120 years ago in Japan. G. There are 21 spots on a dice. H. The white player always starts in a game of chess. I. No one really knows why there are 52 cards in a normal pack, but one idea is that there is one card for every week of the year. J. A soccer referee signals the end of a game by giving 3 long blows on his whistle. K. An ice hockey match has 3 periods of 20 minutes. That's 60 minutes in all. And finally, L. The leader of the Tour de France wears a yellow shirt. Well done. I hope you got on okay. We can see that there are lots of different question forms here. What, which, when, how often, where, how many, who, why, how, and how long. So what we're going to look at is when we use each question form and why. So, which question words do we use to ask about a person? Which question words do we use to ask about a person? Who? Who? For example, who starts in a game of chess? Which question words do we use to ask about a place? A place. Where? For example, where does the sport of judo come from? Which question words do we use to ask about a thing? A thing. We can either use what or we can use which. For example, what colour is the shirt worn by the race leader in the Tour de France? Or which of these countries has never won the Football World Cup? Argentina, England, France, or Japan? We will come back and revisit this one in a moment, but first let's continue. Which question word do we use to ask about time? A time. When? For example, when were the Olympic Games in Sydney, Australia? Which question word do we use to ask about a period of time? How long? For example, how long does an ice hockey match last? Which question word do we use to ask about the class or type of thing? What kind? For example, what kind of ball do they use in the game of rugby? What kind of ball? What about this one? The number of times you do something. Which question word do we use for the number of times you do something? How often? How often? For example, how often do the Winter Olympics happen? What about this? Which question word do we use to ask about the way that we do something? The way that we do something. How? How does a football referee signal the end of a game? How does a football referee signal the end of the game? It's the way he does it. Okay, what about this one? Which question word do we use for the reason for doing something? The reason. Why? For example, why are there 52 cards in a normal pack? Why are there 52 cards in a normal pack? And then finally, what question word do we use to find out the cost of something, which is really helpful in a shop? The cost of something is how much. How much? Brilliant. Well done. So now let's think a little bit about the difference between what and which. We use the question form what if there are many possible answers. What's your name? What do the letters NBA mean? What kind of ball do they use in the game of rugby? Or what colour is the shirt worn by the race leader in the Tour de France? There are many possible answers to all these questions, so we use what. We use which if there are only a few possible answers. Which do you prefer, coffee or tea? Which of these countries has never won the Football World Cup? Argentina, England, France, or Japan? There are only a few possible answers, so we use the question form which. Okay, now let's think about pronunciation a little bit. The main stress in a questions phrase falls on the words carrying the information. So, when do you play football? When do you play football? When and play football are the words carrying in the information. These are the words that are stressed. Who do you play football with? Who do you play football with? Who play football with are the words carrying information. That's where the main stress is. Where do you play football? Where do you play football? Why do you play football? Why do you play football? And notice the intonation. With question words starting with when, who, where, or why, I start here, I finish here. When do you play football? Who do you play football with? Where do you play football? Why do you play football? Okay. You may have also noticed that the verbs be and do are squashed in between the important information. So here's the verb do. How often do you have English lessons? It gets really squashed. It almost becomes ja, ja, ja. Listen again. How often do you have English lessons? Let's look at another one with the verb to be. Are the becomes other, other, other. Listen. How long are the lessons? How long are the lessons? Again, another one with do you. Remember, this becomes ja. Which days do you have lessons? Which days do you have lessons? And another one with do you. Remember, this becomes ja. How many teachers do you have? How many teachers do you have? Well done. So thank you very much for listening to my first lesson, my first intermediate B1 lesson. I have a question for you. Well, rather, I would like you to write the question for the answer. The answer is, my birthday is in August. So what's the question? Brilliant. Please don't forget to subscribe and show your support. And the next lesson in the Intermediate B1 series is going to be a revision of the present simple tense. Thank you very much. Have a lovely day. Goodbye.